Hello and very good afternoon from Toronto, in Canada. We are in fact in Cambridge right now, and the update is that we are once again in a strict lockdown in Ontario due to the rising case numbers. And because of this, you might have heard that Canada has imposed the requirement of um, the COVID 19 test result to be presented before boarding a flight destined to Canada. This is Amir Ismail, live from Cambridge, Ontario. This is one of the smaller cities on the western end of Toronto. And you can see it is very quiet right now, very quiet and um, cold as well, of course. But because of this situation arising out of the pandemic, although the vaccine is available and Canada has also started to um, vaccinate people, but it will take some time before it would be made available to the public. So, having said that, on the immigration front, there have not been any issues. The Canadian government has indicated that they are going to continue to welcome immigrants, although the borders are still closed. And we believe that the borders are not going to open until such time that the entire of the population in Canada is vaccinated. But we have exemptions available where visitors to Canada can still visit if they meet the exemption requirements. And certain of permanent residents who are receiving their new permanent residents who are receiving their confirmation of permanent residence, excuse me, are able to board a flight bound to Canada. And I'm talking about the spousal sponsorship approvals, where spouses who are sponsored by the Canadian spouses are able to come to Canada. But in the meantime, we see that the provinces and the federal government they continue to conduct draws, and we happen to see the provinces immediately stepping up in the first week of the new year. With the new year, it reminded me that I never had the chance of saying Happy New Year to everyone. Um, we did place a Happy New Year message, but I didn't get a chance to say it personally. So, Happy New Year to everyone. And we hope in 2021, when the situation becomes normal, we'll see a lot of people coming to Canada. Due to the lockdown, or the pandemic and travel restrictions, we saw that the number of people arriving in Canada has reduced drastically, and the population growth in Canada has been impacted significantly. But that is the reason that the Minister of Immigration announced last year that they're going to increase the number of people they originally had planned to welcome in 2021. They have increased it to 401,000. So we believe that Canada would be able to meet and perhaps exceed that target. And that is why we are hopeful that a lot of people who didn't have a chance to qualify earlier because of the numbers that are being increased and the numbers available, the quotas available to the provinces are going to increase accordingly. We can see a lot of provincial nominations. So that is good. Well, let me see who is with us today. If I could check out the comments. Shabi is here. Imtiaz Ahmed, Lieutenant Commander in Pakistan Navy. Welcome. good that you are here with us today. Zubair, George Ahmed is here as well. Imtiaz, Hunzai, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It's just a random broadcast that I came up with driving toward home right now uh, from Cambridge. And the traffic on the roads is quite okay. But in terms of people on the streets and people in shopping malls and restaurants, of course, these are all in strict lockdown at the moment. Okay, so we are still having a lot of people coming in right now on the road. Always a good thing to have people with me on the road. Okay. Shabby wants to move to Canada. Yeah, you're very welcome to do so. So anyone who's interested, of course, they understand that there are two ways they can migrate to Canada. One is by way of the skilled worker stream, and that is for people who have skills, educational qualification, work experience, language skills that could be useful to the Canadian labor market. And the other way is I mean, I'm talking about the two main ways people come to Canada, and the other way is to come to Canada as a business person. So anyone who has senior management experience or business ownership experience as the sole proprietor or partner or a director of a private limited company, if they operate a business, or if they are a senior manager in a large company heading a department or heading the company, they can perhaps migrate to Canada under the entrepreneur program, which requires applicants to come to Canada, establish a business, and invest certain amount of money. The net worth required for these kind of programs is usually $500,000, which is basically the value of all your assets, like your real estate properties and any other assets that you may have. And there is a requirement to establish a business for usually a minimum of $200,000. So you are given 2 years' time to establish the business and hire at least two Canadians. So basically, the purpose is um, to encourage economic activities and establish and create jobs. So that is the other way. People are also sponsored by their Canadian relatives. For example, um, uh, Canadian residents and citizens are allowed to sponsor their spouses, their kids who are overseas and are still not permanent residents or citizens. And same way, they can also sponsor their parents. The parental sponsorship is currently closed. It opened for a limited period of time, but now it's closed. But Canadian residents and citizens can sponsor their parents under the super visa category. So a lot of parents or grandparents even come under the super visa category. So that is how you can come to Canada. There are a lot of questions being asked in recent times about our firm's ability to help people in securing jobs in Canada. Unfortunately, we are unable to do so. We don't arrange jobs, and we don't help in securing jobs in Canada. We can only assist in immigration to Canada or any other visa categories such as visitor visas, student visas, and spousal sponsorships and parental sponsorships. So we do that. On the front of studies in Canada, we see that the Canadian government has allowed a number of Canadian institutes to welcome international students, provided the institutes are meeting the COVID readiness plan and they're complying with it, so they can welcome international students. One good thing about studying in Canada that I really like is the ability of the international students to apply for permanent residence when they graduate. So there are a lot of international students, fresh students, or even mature students who come to Canada, study here, and they can then decide to stay here permanently under the Canada Experience class or a provincial program. And in terms of points, also, there are a lot of experienced people who are lacking in few points and they are not being selected. When they decide to study in Canada and secure a Canadian degree, they can claim extra points. So, in some cases, they don't really have to gain that 1 year experience after their studies, because uh, when they claim more points by way of having a Canadian degree, they uh, can reach to that points threshold on which the invitations can be received easily, right? So international students are now once again able to come to Canada, and as an experienced immigration consulting firm, we have ties with a number of um, well reputed Canadian institutes, and we can help you in securing admission as well as representing your study permit application legally as your authorized representatives. So this is about the study permit update. In terms of visitor visa, a lot of people are asking whether they can come to Canada at this point in time. The answer is simply no, because uh, you cannot. You can apply for visitor visa for sure online, but the likelihood of you getting an approval anytime sooner is very remote, because the visa officer would want to make sure that they allow you to come to Canada only when the borders are open. And borders are right now open only for essential workers or people who fall under the exemption category. For example, you have a relative here in Canada and you want to come here for at least 15 days. There are exemptions available, details of which can be found on the IRCC website. But at the moment, those exemptions are the only way you could come to Canada. So this is how it is. Let me see if I could answer some questions. Tanyam is asking, apply for business visa. What are the requirements? Sufficient amount. The business visa. If you're talking about the immigration, as I responded earlier as well, you need to show three things: your business management experience, and your net worth, and your ability to invest the actual amount. So your business management experience is one thing, which would be proven by way of the business documents, business registration, transactions, or if you're a senior manager, prove that you're working at a senior manager position. Secondly, the net worth would be proven by way of documentation such as property documents, savings, shares, and any other assets that you may possess, and your ability to invest the business in a viable business here in Canada. You would present a viable business plan, a very comprehensive business plan that would outline the the purpose of the business and the way it would become a success in Canada. So that's how you would then submit the application, and it will be assessed by on a provincial level, because most of these programs are provincial programs. And if you get an approval by the province, then you can be nominated for a work permit first, and you'll come here and you would establish a business within the given period of time of 24 months. And once you succeed in establishing the business, then the province can nominate you for permanent residence. Once you receive the nomination, you can then apply for permanent residence in Canada while already being in Canada. When you come to Canada initially, you can actually bring in your family with you, and your kids can come. They can study free of cost up to the 12th grade. Your spouse can also work on an open work permit, and you in the meantime endeavor to establish your business. And once you establish, as I said before, you can then apply for permanent residence after being nominated by the province. So I hope that that answers your question. I'd see if I could take uh, a couple of more questions before I say goodbye to you. Yeah. Okay, Christina is saying, want to apply for visa at the age of 47. What are the chances? So age actually plays a very vital role in terms of points calculation. All the other factors are also important, of course, but age is very important because you start losing points from the age from age um, 35, and as you grow in your age you start losing points, and by the time you are 47 you have lost all your points. So we'll have to see. Sometimes people, despite the fact that they're losing points, they still have prospects because their occupation is in demand. We can look into your eligibility. The likelihood is that in your case it would be a weaker case because you're losing a lot of points in the um, age factor. Let's see if I can see another question. It's difficult to actually read while driving. Okay. So Hina is asking a question. I have a question. IRC offices are open. Can we call them for our application status? Okay, so if you're outside Canada, you cannot call them. You can send them an inquiry by way of a web form. But if you are within Canada, you can call them. The call centers are working, and the agents will be happy to answer your queries. They are actually, I've seen them being more efficient during these times, maybe because of lesser load of work and lesser load of applications. But yes, if you're within Canada, you can call, or if there's a representative you have whom you have authorized, that person can do it on your behalf. Mir Murtaza is asking, his age is 30, is just completing his MBA, and let me see, because the car is actually wobbling on the road, unable to read it properly. I'll just park somewhere to answer a few of the questions very quickly before I move on my road trip. Okay, I'll just park it here, and then I'll take Murtaza's question. Murtaza is, I'm parking just because of you. Okay. His age is 30. He's just completing his MBA. 18 years education, has 5 years of experience. By profession, he's an engineer and single. So, Murtaza, you already have a professional degree, which is the engineering degree. And it's going to be good that you will be completing your MBA as well. So, that's going to improve your points because you'll have two degrees. Or if it's an MBA, it might be equated as a Canadian master's degree. So, that will be wonderful. But even now, when you don't have your MBA, you might still qualify to submit your application, and we'll need to see how many ranking points you might be scoring, or you might have to rely on a PNP program. So I encourage you to complete our online assessment form. It's available on our website, www.amirismail.com. You most probably would be required to complete our skill worker assessment form. And once you complete the form, our team responds in 2 business days whether it would be feasible to go ahead or not. And then they decide whether it would be appropriate to schedule a consultation, a one-on-one consultation as well. Okay. Shabby is asking, uh, Shabby is a multimedia expert and will start an ad agency or audio recording studio in Canada, and going doing some graphic works and print media works, so also video editing. So we need to look at it because there is a category specifically for people in all these graphics and entertainment industry in audio mixing and sound engineering. We need to look at it. You can provide us further details by way of an email to us. Our email address is available on our website, www.amirismail.com, or feel free to send an email at info@amirismail.com. Okay. And Murtaza is asking another question. What are the IELTS requirement for permanent residence visa? So the minimum requirements, as we understand, is 6 bands in each component, but 6 is usually not enough to um, gather sufficient ranking points for selection. I would always recommend people to aim for the highest bands and then see what happens, and give yourself certain amount of time to prepare yourself, because IELTS is not only the test of English, it's also a test of a lot of other things, like your ability to focus and the time management, because you have certain amount of time only at your disposal to answer questions. So the more you practice, the more the better it would be. Okay, let's see. A few more interesting remarks. Dr. Sadad is saying, does Ontario have a provincial nominee program for someone with a job offer as a family doctor in Ontario? Okay, so Ontario does have a nomination program, and it selects people regularly through its program. It doesn't require you to have a job offer. If you are a doctor, the chances of you getting a job offer are zero, because it's a regulated occupation, as you already know. For you to be able to work as a doctor in Canada, or any province in Canada, you need to have a license from that province, and you can't get a license unless you are here and you appear in those exams. So do your research for the internationally trained medical graduates, and you know the steps involved. But I would recommend that you submit your immigration application, and also submit your provincial nominee application for Ontario and many other provinces as well, in order to maximize your chances of being selected as a permanent resident. There is no requirement for licensing to apply for permanent resident, but once you come here, in order to work as a doctor, you would need a license at that point in time. Okay, so I hope, Dr. Sadad, I have answered your question. Farhan Pradhan is saying, what is the opportunity for registered nurses in Canada nowadays, and IELTS requirement? So nurses have always been in demand. For I believe it's Farheen. Sorry, Farheen. Nurses have always been in demand, and this has been the case in the entire year of 2020, especially because of the pandemic. Canada realizes that they need more nurses here, and one of the provinces, Nova Scotia, in fact, held a draw that was dedicated to nurses. And otherwise, as well, if you look at the various provincial programs, they have always encouraged nurses. And in terms of direct selection under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, if you do have the required ranking points, you may get selected directly by a province as well. So I hope that is fine. Faisal Anwar is saying, can you please tell me what are the chances for banking sales profile? So when it comes to occupations, and if we talk about the Federal Skilled Worker Program, you might have noticed that from January 2015, the occupation list for the federal program was eliminated. So you could be in banking, sales, you could be in any occupation, as long as your ranking points are meeting the requirements of the threshold currently in the going ranking score. It would not matter what your profession is. Yes, for the purpose of provincial programs, the provinces are focused on occupations. So the sales occupations are in demand, in fact, in a few provinces. And sales managers, people in sales in different industries, including those who are in relationship management, in banking, and sales in banking, they might stand a chance in some of the provinces. So we can look into your profile once you provide it to us, and we can provide you a free assessment of your eligibility within 2 business days to let you know whether you would be eligible in the main program, the federal program, or maybe in one of the, or maybe more of the provinces. So we can discuss that. Some few more questions coming in. So let's see if I can answer some of these. Zal Ahmad is asking, I have 2 years. Okay, let me just read it more carefully rather than. Okay, let's see. I have 2 years, 2 degrees, BSc and MCS, total 16 years of education. What would be the equivalency by Canadian degree? Okay, so what you need to do is you need to get it equated, right? Uh, Most probably it's gonna be equivalent to a 4 years bachelor's degree, but there are some assessment bodies I've known that they have equated the master's degree obtained after 2 years bachelor's degree as master's degrees. So when it comes to choosing the assessment bodies, um, uh, do your research to figure out which one of those would perhaps equate it to a master's degree. And it also comes down to your college or university as well. So, yeah, do your research, and I think you'll be okay. Okay. So, I'm happy that there are a few questions coming from LinkedIn. This is my first broadcast on LinkedIn. But we have few friends who have joined us from Facebook, and I think a few from the YouTube as well. I'll take one YouTube question as well. Uh, yeah, I'm doing good, Sakib. Thank you very much for your greetings. Thank you. Okay, so let me see if I can take a couple more questions. Shazia Mirza, yes, walaikum salam, and thank you for your wishes. Okay, so this was a short broadcast. I tried to keep it short, but I can see that it has already been 28 minutes. Whenever we decide and whenever we commit ourselves to remain as focused as we could, but broadcasts, of course, they bring in more questions, and I'm happy to answer questions. That's why sometimes these go beyond 2 hours. Our last broadcast was 2 hours, right? Okay. So before I go, I'll take Shazia's remark. Just want to ask, my case of immigration in UK, Canadian embassy is like 2019, still waiting. Yeah. So unfortunately, this has been the case with a lot of people because of the pandemic. These 8 9 months, or I would say 10 months, have virtually been literally been lost basically. There have been very less moment on applications, but I hope that 2021 will bring some good news for people who have been waiting. Their cases have been in pending, and situation would improve. The processing times will improve, and I hope. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today, and I hope to get in touch with you guys um, later next week. Thank you. Take care. Bye.